I've never owned a bike before.
Dude, I love your bike.
So nice.
Who called the cops?
That lady that was out in front of your building. If I keep riding wheelies, you're gonna have me towed.
What is up, Mini Moto fam? Back in the studio today to do a very, very special review video, which is the review video for the 2017 to 2018 Kawasaki Z125 Pro. Now, if you've been following this channel for a while, you know that I was a new rider last year, that the Z125 was my very first motorcycle, and a lot of the install and review and tutorial videos and even the moto vlogs were things that were all new to me, and I had to figure them out first and then figure out how to film it and then make a good video out of it for you guys to watch. The big advantage to that, though, is the fact that I obtained a lot of experience and knowledge with this bike and a lot of the people that ride them, along with the Honda Grom and other similar bikes. So today, I'm going to go over everything that I love about the Kawasaki Z125 Pro, along with everything I hate about it, which isn't much. It actually isn't much. At this point in time, my Kawasaki is now a year old, and I have 3,400 miles on it just in that year alone. Now, what originally inspired me to buy this motorcycle was the fact that I'd always wanted a motorcycle, but I came from one of those homes where my parents were like, "You're never owning a motorcycle so long as you live with us." And they always told me how dangerous they were and how it was essentially a death wish to own one. But all my friends own motorcycles from the time I was 18 until now, which I'm 34 years old now, by the way. And I was always very fascinated and wanted to ride, but I was always scared. You know, I was taught that it was this dangerous, terrible thing. So last year, my best friend, Brandon Lewis, he rides the red Grom in all of my videos, had recently acquired his Grom and wanted to go do some filming. And I was getting into YouTube and trying to figure out what kind of channel I wanted and what kind of channel I wanted to start. And I had all this knowledge about cameras and audio and video editing, but I didn't know what I really wanted to film. So he told me about this magical new Honda Grom that he had purchased and how he wanted to go up to Hot Springs and ride in the mountains and video it. And I was like, hey, that's a great idea. Let's go. So I went with him and I filmed the whole thing. I hooked him up with all his camera gear. I did all the editing. And the only thing that really stuck in my head was, I want to do that. I don't want to just be the camera guy. I want to be the guy on the motorcycle with the camera. But me being me, and I like being a little different. I don't like following the crowd or doing what everybody else does. I wanted something a little different, and I did a little shopping around and found the 2017 Kawasaki Z125 Pro, which is the perfect contender to the Honda Grom, the ultimate rival, for many reasons. In fact, I'd even say that the Kawasaki is better than the Grom in a lot of ways. A lot of people will tell you that the Honda Grom's faster than the Z, but what they don't tell you is that the oil system's better, that it has better bottom end torque, that it's better for stunting, and arguably more reliable overall. So that's what this video is really about. It's about the Kawasaki Z125 Pro. I don't think that the Grom is a bad bike, and I'm not telling anybody to choose one over the other. I'm simply telling you what my experience is as a new rider on the 2017 Kawasaki Z125 Pro. Now, when somebody comes to me and says, do you want the good news or do you want the bad news? I always pick the bad news first because I want to get that out of the way and save the best for last. So we're going to start with the bad news. The things that I hate the most about the Kawasaki Z125. Now you might could consider this both good news and bad news because there's only really one thing. There's really only one thing that I dislike about the Z125 as far as its build quality goes. And that's the fact that the transmission is a little clunky, especially when you first get it. The fuck? See, this is one of those Kawasaki problems I was talking about right here. I was trying to shift down into first and went into neutral. I had a lot of issues with downshifting, especially being a new rider. Like, I would roll up to a red light, I'd grab the clutch, and I'd hit the brake, and then realize that I didn't downshift into first. And that's kind of a normal thing that you get used to eventually. Eventually, you don't even think about it anymore. You just downshift to first automatically. Just like if you're new to driving a manual transmission car, you know, all the gears and stuff is really intimidating at first, and eventually it becomes natural and normal, and you can eat a cheeseburger and drive a manual at the same time. But back before that, I remember I would roll up to red lights and I'd look down and realize I was still in fourth gear, and I was like, I got to downshift to first, and it would get clunky and the light would turn green and it didn't want to go into first like it was supposed to, and it was very frustrating. Now, after some research, I realized that if you upgrade to a higher quality oil than the Kawasaki oil, personally, I use Royal Purple. Other people have claimed that Mobil 1 is just as good. It's also a little cheaper and easier to come by. But in my experience, after switching to Royal Purple, I never had those issues again, other than just at random. And when you're getting close to oil change time, you can kind of base how wore out your oil is based on how well your transmission shifts. So in a way, it's kind of a good thing. Now on to the pros, the best part about the bike, which is everything about the bike other than the way it shifts sometimes. When I first decided to buy the Z125, I wasn't really excited about the color choices, because at the time, all you could get was the green that I have, the gray, and the KRT edition, which was a little bit more money. I never was huge into the color of green, but it's kind of grown on me. I've always been kind of a blue person, which in 2018 they came out with the Kawasaki Z125 Pro SE, which is blue and black with gold wheels. And honestly, if that one would have came out at the same time that I decided to buy one, that's the one I would have bought, and I would have paid extra for it. But looking back on it now, I really like the green. It's really visible. People tell me all the time how much they love the color of it, and it's kind of grown on me. One of the more popular questions is this a good beginner bike? Well, being that it's the only bike that I've ever owned, I couldn't really give you a professional's perspective on this. What I can give you is my experience. And in my experience, it's a great beginner's bike. However, there is a little issue that you want to watch out for if you're a brand new rider. And that's that when you come to a red light, you're really going to have to decide whether you're going to run that light or you're going to stop. And you have to decide that pretty soon, pretty quickly. I had a really close call when I first bought the bike. I'll show that here. I was in a place I wasn't familiar with. I was on a road I wasn't familiar with, around traffic I wasn't familiar with, and I saw this light turn yellow. I was trying to catch up to my friends on the Groms up ahead, and I misjudged this light and hit the brakes. And when I hit the brakes, I hit them too hard, I panicked, and I almost laid the bike down. I was actually very, very lucky in this situation. And that's kind of the downside to the Z125 versus a bigger bike. If I'd run up on that light on a bigger bike, such as a 600 or bigger, I could have just dropped a gear and disappeared, as they say. But on a Z125, you got 9.5 horsepower, and you don't have that much acceleration. So this is something that could be tricky for new riders that live in big cities or in places where there's heavy traffic and irresponsible drivers like we have around here. But you can always avoid this. You can go into the neighborhoods. You can familiarize yourself on roads that have a lot less traffic. There's ways around this. I'm not going to lie, I kind of rushed into this. This video was made probably 2 or 3 weeks after I bought the bike. I really had no business on that street, and I didn't even have my license yet. I got it a couple of weeks later, and then figure out exactly what I did wrong. That's another thing I'll say. If you're a new rider, go take a motorcycle course. A lot of older riders will tell you that it's a waste of time, that it's elementary, but if you've never rode a bike before, elementary is what you need. In Texas, you have to take the motorcycle course in order to get your license, and when I took the course, I figured out exactly what I did wrong in that situation. So just keep that in mind. Now, another question I get asked pretty often, especially from other motorcycle riders, is the Kawasaki Z125 Pro better than the Honda Grom? Well, I'll be straight. I'll be honest. The Grom is faster. It actually is faster. Out of the box, once it's broken in, your Grom buddies are going to be passing you. However, there's one strong, underrated advantage to the Z125 that the Grom owners simply cannot claim, and that is that the Z125 is a better stunt bike. It's even an inherently better stunt bike because it doesn't have the oil problems that the Groms do. The Grom, it doesn't have an oil filter, it doesn't have an oil filter gasket, it just has an oil screen, so it doesn't really block out all the contaminants as well. On top of that, you have to do what they call the oil mod to the Groms, because if you're riding a wheelie, you know, you're standing the bike up at the 12 o'clock position or somewhere therein, and all of the oil drains down to the bottom of the engine. So the top of the engine is not getting any oil because there's no circulation for the oil in that position. That's not what it was designed for. The Kawasaki, on the other hand, gets oil no matter what position it's in. So it has a far superior oil system. You can ride wheelies all day and never have to worry about blowing it up, unlike the Honda Grom. Wow, wow, wow. Me personally, I don't do any stunting. I just ride and talk about products and do review videos. That's kind of my thing. I do eventually want to get into it. There's plenty of cages for the bike that keeps it from becoming damaged while you're learning how to stunt, and just like anything else, when you're learning, you're going to fail, which in stunting, failing means falling. And I do eventually plan on getting into that, but until then, I had my good friend Brandon Lewis, who is always on the red Grom in my videos, to ride some wheelies so he could show you exactly how well a Z rides a wheelie. Now that he's gotten pretty good at riding wheelies, I talked to him after these videos were shot, and he told me he really liked the Z in the sense that it has a lot more bottom end torque. He said that getting it up off the ground is a lot easier. It doesn't feel like it takes as much oomph, and that's probably because the Z125 makes torque at a lower RPM than the Honda Grom. So if you're looking for the ultimate wheelie machine, well, truth be told, the Z125 is it. Now, at the beginning and kind of midway through last season, a lot of people complain and say, there's not enough aftermarket parts for the Z125. The Grom has way more aftermarket parts and accessories, and that might have been true then, but really it's about the same now. Just about everything you can buy for a Grom, you can buy for a Z125 now. That includes even 5 and 6-speed transmissions, big bore kits and stroker kits in every size that you could imagine, and even standalone ECUs in multiple different varieties. Another question I get asked pretty often is, being a beginner rider, do I plan on getting a big bike? And the answer to that question is yes, I do plan on getting a big bike. But unlike some people, I don't plan on replacing the Z with a big bike. I plan on getting another bike, so I'll have the Z, and then I'll also have a big bike, which I have a couple ideas. I'm looking at a used 250R right now, and I've also arranged plans to go to Hot Springs and test ride the new 2018 Kawasaki Ninja 400. Those videos will be coming soon. But would I sell the Z? No, definitely not. I love this bike. It's so much fun. I'll probably keep it for as long as it runs, blow it up, and put another engine in it because, hey, it's a $3,000 bike. I mean, it's not like it's really expensive or difficult to rebuild. Another thing I like about the Z125 is, well, I tend to be a relatively social person. I like talking to strangers. I like having conversations with people I don't know. And the Z125 really attracts the attention. So if you like talking to people, you like hanging out, you like being social, then you're going to love the Z125, because every gas station you go to, there's going to be at least 10 different people that ask you, how fast is it? How big is it? How much did it cost? Where did you get it at? How do I get one? These are the questions you're going to be faced with daily. If you're not one of those people, if you don't like being social, then this might not be the bike for you because it attracts attention. But let's get down to the nitty-gritty. What do I really think? What do I think that you should do? Do I think you should buy this bike? Yes, absolutely. I think it's a great bike. I think it's one of Kawasaki's best bikes. And despite what I said about being a new rider, I think if you're a confident rider and you believe in yourself and you believe in your bike, that this is a perfect first bike for you. If you're not a real confident person and you don't trust the machine that you're on, it might not be the best. It isn't for everyone, but it is an excellent starting platform, and I can't wait to move up to bigger bikes, and I hope you guys are going to be here for that. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button, and we will see you on the next Not a Grom video. Peace.
What's up, kiddo? If there's anybody from HJC listening, fuck you. This helmet sucks. Where do you want to meet at?
I don't know. What do you want me to?
You want to meet at Starbucks? What direction are we going? What are you doing? What are you doing?
You know, I was like, look, that's good. I bet Cody was with you. I was like, oh, wait, that's Cody.